I have a hobby. I have a hobby. I like to buy video games. Notice I didn't necessarily say I like to play video games. Oftentimes I kinda don't, but I certainly like to buy them, specifically for cheap and after some digging. Remember the bargain bins? Are those still around? Remember digging in the bargain bins? Because some buried part of your psyche, which is populated by Indiana Jones and Lara Croft and Nicolas Cage, whispered that if there was anything good in that bin, you would have to dig for it. And you would. And you might cart off a stack of dirt cheap DVDs that were mostly trash but might have one good cult classic or a forgotten gem in it. The age of digital distribution has made it easier than ever to do exactly that with games. A knock-on effect of this is that I have swaths of games that I have absolutely no recollection of ever purchasing. I don't know the time, date, reason, justification, cost, whatever. They're just there. Money's a little tight right now, this close to the holidays, so it's a good time to reach into the mystery stack and see if we can make something work. See if we can dredge some gold out of the bargain bin. See if we have, in fact, scored a hidden gem at some point. Let's see if we can make an apology for Iron Storm. After recording this intro, my phone has kept recommending me therapy options for compulsive shopping. Verbatim quote from Wikipedia. Iron Storm is a first-person shooter video game. I haven't yet figured out how to pronounce hyphens, but you can imagine a string of them right there. Developed by 4X Studio, who never once made a 4X game, and released for Microsoft Windows in October of 2002. Which is noteworthy because I and the old lady across the street and her dog and the representative from the Vatican all would have said this must absolutely be ported from a console. The 2002 comes through real strong though. The absolute best cover art for this game is on the improved version, World War Zero, which features a stalker who has looted one of Lemmy Kilmister's hats and is wielding a weapon tricked out with a laser sight, a Vox amplifier, and an underslung sardine can that is ejecting not shell casings, but entire bullets. I would not want to cross this dude in a dark corner of a roadside picnic. This thing is set in an alternate history 1964 where World War I is still going on. Now, more than 60 million people died over 4 years during that idiotic cluster, so the idea that it could be sustained for 50 years to allow this game to happen is stretching the suspension of disbelief a touch. Ultimately, that premise is pointless because the game never leans into it or does anything interesting with it. The intro makes it a point to state the following.
Faced with this madman, the West could think of nothing better than floating their armies on the stock exchange in order to finance the war. And there are plenty of people who line their pockets by speculating on the deaths of others.
And if the fact that I'm sneaking up on middle-aged and am making YouTube videos about 2-decade-old games that I purchased for less than $5 isn't evidence enough, I don't have any experience in investing. But I was under the impression that speculating was the act of partaking in a high-risk, high-reward stock based on limited available information. Speculating on the lives of soldiers, that's just gambling, isn't it? Somebody school me here. Despite this detail being front and center on the intro, aside from some throwaway dialogue from the NPCs, it makes no impact whatsoever on the story or gameplay, which may actually be the most sophisticated place to put a red herring I have ever seen. We're really familiar with World War II, right? Not the tabletop game, the genre mashup of World War II with horror or science fiction that mixes Nazis with the occult or aliens or zombies or whatever. It's actually been going on since the war itself, because obviously the Nazis were in on some evil crap. Nowadays it's typified by your Wolfenstein and Hellboy and Mortier. I might have to look at that one later. But why am I banging on about World War II with weirdness, and isn't this a straight-faced alternate history? Yes, but This game really, really wishes it was in the Wolfenstein franchise. Like, this is a cousin to Wolfenstein. This is Wolfenstein's cousin that drinks Ice House, smokes Lucky Strikes, and loiters around the convenience store asking if it can hold $1. We are starting out with a sniper duel on the very first combat encounter.
Eliminated all the snipers with your rifle.
I mean, come out swinging, fellas. Stand back, Marines. Let the chief show you how it's... Oh. That was a
All the
fluke.
snipers with your rifle.
That was another... That was a liver fluke.
All the snipers with your rifle.
Alright. There he is. There.
All the
Just...
snipers.
Hey. Is there any settings? I can crawl.
All the snipers
And I'm gonna get to that assault rifle.
with your rifle.
Crawling. No, get... Crawling. To the rifle. Zip.
With your rifle.
Let's go around. This is crap. Let's go around. And the pistol really is that slow. Before anyone says it's a skill issue, I present Exhibit A. Look at this crap. Now, look at this crap. There is no way. That was dead to his sternum.
All the snipers with your rifle.
This isn't a video gag. I died 18 times in this very first encounter. So I learned that this rifle has a zoom, and apparently it's like the string on a bow because it makes your bullets actually do damage. Oh, we got one! We got one! Yes, we are playing this game! Up and over, and I can finally get my hands on this assault rifle. Now I realize full well I am not Jonathan Ferguson, Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Arms Museum in the UK, Esquire, but I watch him a lot on YouTube, so I feel compelled to note some things about this rifle. It seems to be constructed out of sheet metal held together with hex-headed machine screws. The firing selector is modeled after a sliding window latch, and the iron sights are reminiscent of a shoe sizer. Moving on. One thing I did note, there are no proper reload animations in this game. Our dude will just kind of smack the bum of the given weapon and it'll have fresh rounds in it. And this fellow holds 30 rounds of something in a rather small magazine. Notes on that later. There's one more sniper out there. Oh, God, you can see his laser dot. We made it through the trenches, we made it into a tunnel, and we finally get to load the second part of this level. Talking about an emotional roller coaster, but here we go. We're fisting to progress, and this happens. And I have no idea why. I've gone back and looked at footage over and over again. I haven't the foggiest notion why this happens. Am I stepping on a mine? Here's these guys. Through the tunnel. Senses alert, eyes open. These guys are blowing me up. And then just out of the blue, at one point it works. I don't explode. I just progress to the next part of the game. It's a feature, I suppose. Shotguns in a certain style of video game, namely older shooters or titles intended to emulate older shooters, come with preconceived notions. Folks who watch videos like this know exactly what I'm talking about. But for all the sympathy views I'm getting from non-gamer family members, let me explain. Boomer shooter shotguns now have a mythological archetype that has little in common with the performance of actual shotguns. They're supposed to be loud and dramatic with absurd spread and strong feedback, which makes them fun to shoot, and devastating at close range to facilitate the power fantasy and provide players with a means of dispatching strong enemies in cramped environments. Conversely, unlike actual shotguns, they're not expected to perform all that well at any sort of distance. You know, for game balance. So you have a reason to switch to a different weapon. It's kind of like bows in fantasy role-playing games, you know what I mean? Your strength characters will use swords or hammers or whatever, and dexterity characters can use bows. Mostly so scrawny twinks can play pretend also, because actual war bows could have a draw weight in excess of 100 pounds. What was I on about? Shotguns. This game shotgun is bad. All of that to say this video game shotgun is really bad. It holds 4 rounds and is absolutely lethal at tonsillectomy range. Again, there's no reloading animation. James just gives it a sort of a whack. Maybe it has a forward assist. This is your crowbar. Use it to open boxes.
James, you can't get through. You're gonna drown in this swamp.
She is not wrong. In an impressive degree of verisimilitude, this man, who has probably a wool coat, boots, pants, what is essentially a messer, a suppressed semi-automatic pistol, a pump-action shotgun, a high-powered scoped bolt-action rifle, an apparently water-cooled assault rifle, and an aggregate of 400-ish rounds of various ammunition on his person, cannot swim. With this shocking level of realism, we might actually be looking at an immersive sim. It would explain the wonky shooting. Gas recoil, water-cooled barrel, probably chambered for 7mm at the time with a fire rate around 450 rounds a minute. Maxim or Vickers machine guns, whichever this alternate timeline would be trying to model, were no joke. They're still being used in Ukraine because they kill stuff good. After all that effort to get on it, this stonking great automatic weapon ought to have some really satisfying feedback. Not intend to, but I'm gonna break this one into a 2-parter. I'm on the last level of this game, and people that are familiar with it will know exactly what that entails. But with this pressing anxiety of hurry up and get it finished, I think the video itself is going to suffer if I don't, take a breath. So, stay tuned for part 2. If you actually watched this far, I really appreciate you.